it lit a fire in me. I've read books where people said that there was a turning point in their life, and I can probably list a couple of them that happened in swimming, but that moment lived with me for the rest of my life.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome into a new installment of the Career Competitor Podcast with me, Steve Meller. And as a member of the CG Sports Network, we are the show that seeks to light the competitive fire within you in order to succeed within your career. And my guest today is a two-time Olympic champion. So talk about competing at the highest level. Cullen Jones joins us to talk about quite a few things. Firstly, a good bit about our friendship. We go back a good 15, 16 years. And I've been just a huge fan of Cullen from close up, from afar at times, whatever it may be, always following his career and seeing him achieve the highest of highs. And we go into also a number of more recent events too, including his work at the moment with some of the racial injustice movements going on around the country over the last few months. He is extremely active, extremely vocal, and very much pushing the barriers in the right direction in terms of making sure that he himself is a signal, is a proponent for all the fantastic things that are happening around the country and within the sport of swimming specifically with regards to racial injustices and diversity. So really excited to dive into some of this stuff with Cullen. Be sure to make sure that you are subscribing to the show. If this is your first listen, welcome. I'm glad that you've decided to join us. But while you're here, I encourage you to give the show a rating. If you're listening to us on iTunes, just click that 5th star because I think we are worthy of it. And be sure to leave me some insight as well as to what you thought of the episode. Also, take the time to go to careercompetitor.com where you will find a very easy way to navigate through the episodes and take a look into some of the new things that we have going on, including blogging, which I have recently gotten into as well, which is something I'm really enjoying. And it's a part of my competitive call episodes that I release on Mondays to get you guys fired up for the week ahead. So that is everything you need to know in relation to the show. And I'm now excited to be bringing in an old friend of mine, but two-time Olympic champion in the sport of swimming, Cullen Jones, to the show. I hope you guys enjoy. I am extremely excited to be welcoming on an old friend of mine from the NC State heyday. Wolfpack in the house. Cullen Jones, like I said, just a longtime friend, a guy that I've just been so in awe of. Let's call it what it is, man. In awe of you for a long time now. Just really blessed to have seen so many things up close of what you've achieved. I always knew one day I'd be interviewing the Cullen Jones,
So we got the name. We got the name. Friend, you see me at my worst. Don't do that.
We're just two beautiful bald dads now, just doing life at its best. Yeah. Well, how are you, man? Everything good?
Things are good, man. It's been a shift. I don't think Steve, I don't think I've actually said that I retired, but I guess I was just kind of forced to pasture. No, I was ready, I think, mentally to kind of hang up the goggles. And I know Michael's talked about it, but I went through some serious times mentally, just trying to figure out what the next step was for me, and bumped my way through. But things are good. I'm back with Speedo. In no way do I feel like I'm trying to hold on to the sport. No, I feel like I'm contributing to the sport now in a different way. So to find a niche to be able to still be in the sport and not to feel like I'm just trying to hold on is great.
Yeah, and I love that. And I actually appreciate that you kind of started there, because for me, and we'll get into the many things we did in the pool, but I think hearing you talk about what you were just to me before we started recording here, about the passion projects that you now have and these amazing partners that you get to do it with. I think for me, there's so much potential because of those amazing partnerships that you obviously have at your disposal. So just talk to us a little bit about, and let's keep it competitive, talk to us a little bit about how you feel as though you're able to take Cullen Jones, the competitor, into this work that you're now doing today?
Yeah, that's a perfect tee up, Steve. Thank you. And it still get to be kind of the athlete and to be the role model. I never asked for it, but I take it very strongly.
Yep.
And I feel like this transition into this role of building out ways for Speedo to kind of give back, not only to the sport, but back to the community, was right up my alley. The work that I did with, and still do with Make a Splash and USA Swimming Foundation and Phillips 66 it's been 13 years. You know, we've reached over $8 million worth funding kids how to swim. It's amazing. And I just remember back in 2008 when I was sitting in the room or on the phone and we're trying to build out what this looks like. And I was like rolling my eyes because I'm a 24-year-old just having a good time, but wanting to give back, of course. But, you know, just listening to all of the different pieces being put together to make this thing that's now been 13 years. And now, Steve, this is my job. I do that now. Like I'm building things for this sport to thrive, whether that be to teach kids to learn how to swim, to be more inclusive. It's my turn to now step up and try to build these different structures. So I love it. And as you said, building the brand, I'm still, Sprint 41 is still my job, my business, my brand. I'm still building that within, you know, what I do in Speedo, and any way that I can push that and help is just icing on the cake, man.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of building brands, you can't really talk about, you know, something that's any less competitive than that, right? You know, it's about identifying who you are. It's about understanding, as you just sort of attested to there, like finding that niche, committing within that market, knowing the sort of clientele that you're working towards. But what I am interested to learn more about, man, is like knowing you for who you are, knowing you for this person that wants to give back, that wants to be available. And that's a tough one, like wanting, like that willingness to be available. And now suddenly we're in this part of your career where you are more available. You're not training anymore. You know, you're not putting in the time. How are you finding that balance of just sort of saying yes to people, saying no to certain things, and just sort of, I guess, having enough Cullen to give around, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I am now on the USA Swimming Foundation board. I'm on the board for diversity in aquatics. We have formed a group called Team Black after the George Floyd incidents, and working with Leah Neal and Maritza Karaya, Sabir Muhammad, and you know, I'm co-chairing that one. On top of working and having my own entrepreneurial brand of Sprint 41,
and being a dad,
and being a dad. Yeah, man, I'm tired just talking about it. Yeah, right, exactly. I'm definitely, and I give lessons at Lifetime, man. I'm all over the place.
Right.
My calm place is hanging with my son.
Sure.
Honestly, he's nuts, and I can't even call that calm, because if you follow me on Instagram, you see he's never sitting down. Right. But that's my calm space. I thought, to your point, that, like, you know, when I was swimming, I was training, or I was doing Make a Splash, and I was traveling to different places, and so a lot of people have always asked me, like, you know, you went and traveled, because National Water Safety Month is in May, and we all know that big meets were in June. You know, we had a lot of big meets, and I always say it because he's my brother. I love him to death. But in my back of my head is, you got to race Nathan. You got to race Tony. You got to race these fast guys, Josh Schneider. You got to race these guys. And you're going off and gallivanting to California to teach kids to swim.
Right.
Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And that was always something that was in the back of my mind. But every time that I went, every time that I saw these kids, every time that I was working with these kids, it fired me up. It fueled me. I watched a kid go underwater for the first time, or blow bubbles for the first time, or was terrified of the water, but in 30 minutes, I got them to even sit by the end of the pool. I feel like that's what helped me swim faster.
Yeah.
I'll go back because I was so focused. It just turned my whole perception. And now in this role, I have less time. I thought I would have less time, but honestly, and you know, you're a dad. I have less time now than ever. It's like I'm just prioritizing every day. Like, okay, what do I have to do today? What's today? What's the most important thing? So, it's a blessing. I'd rather be busy than bored. That's I put that down every day. I write it down. I'd rather be busy.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. And I think I love how you put it is, seeing these, and I think so many people would look at these things as like tasks or job or work or whatever, and you see it as fuel. You
Yeah.
say, hey, I got this thing coming up today, and sure, it's going to take up my time. Sure, it's going to take some of my energy, but it's actually also going to act as the fuel for me to then go on and do whatever it is I got next on my schedule. And I
Right.
think that's a very, very important note for really, and I'll hit this one to athletes really, is because athletes are so guilty of saying, woe is me, I am tired, this is hard. And we've,
Victim. You're not the victim.
exactly, playing the victim. And I think how can we change that mindset? How can we just say, you know what? Yes, I'm tired, but what about what I'm doing now is going to actually fuel me for what's coming next? And going back to you, the swimmer now, like, how did you deal with the, let's call it what it is, the monotony of the hardships of the season and the training? How did you sort of get out? What was your inspirations to get out of bed from one day to the next day and be ready to compete in the same domain?
I think that, and it's a beautiful ignorance. I think that a lot of us as swimmers, we just get used to that schedule. And so, what I found out when I moved into the working world was so many employers love, especially swimmers, because we're so used to get up, go to practice, go to school, go to practice, come home, do homework, go to sleep, repeat. And that's what we're used to doing. And so I think for me, I was always in that mindset of like, get the schedule down. My worst training, my worst just being a human being, I was always irritable when I didn't have a schedule. I realized that. Like I needed to have that. And I think as most swimmers know, we're all used to that kind of a schedule. When we break that schedule, we start to feel out of alignment. And so when I was training, it was, all right, if I don't feel right, it's because I'm out of the schedule. I need to focus. And so a lot of people talk about goal setting, and that's what I did all the time. I would put pictures up of people that I raced against and of them winning. And it was fuel. It was always fuel. And I would, Nathan and I have some epic battles in the 53, or Tony or Cesar Cielo, or like I've had Caleb, like I've had so many those nail biters that it was always fuel for me. That is Caleb sitting here drinking a glass of wine? Probably not. Did I take the shot of tequila? No.
Probably
Did I
not.
stay up later? No. As you drink water. Come on, man.
Yeah, man. I'm just
the right thing.
I'm the pro, man. I'm the pro.
That's it.
Listen, before we go too much further into, let's say, what you're doing today, let's rewind. Let's rewind here, and let's talk about, some of your success stories. 2-time gold medalist at the Olympic Games, individual silver medalist in the 50 in London 2012. It seemed, and this is the crazy part about you, whether you admit it or not, but the bigger the meet, the bigger the swim. And that's and honestly, I just, if you just look at your medal count through your career, I think you have more Olympic medals than any other medal, pretty much. And that says about everything you need to know in terms of the bigger the meet, the bigger the swim. And I think for you as a sprinter, with me working with sprinters today, having that thing in your arsenal where it's just like, I know come game time, come performance, come the expectation being at absolute highest, that my best will be something that I can deliver. Where in the world do you start to build that element within your psyche? Or is it something that you just woke up one day and you were just like, hey, I'm a gamer. I know how to do this. Talk to us a little bit about, and I know a lot of that was flattery, a lot of that was complimentary, but hey,
Thank you.
don't take it, don't let your head get too big here. But just talk to me a little bit about it, man, because it is true. It's true. So just talk to us a little bit about that.
I'm really scrappy. Even as a kid, I was really scrappy. If you told me you couldn't do something, I was like, okay, all right, let me prove it wrong. And you're right. The bigger the more I stepped up. David Marsh, father figure, he was my coach for 11 years, towards the end of my career. He hated that about me. Like you have swimmers like Nathan. Nathan is at practice every single day. He's doing the same thing. He will go 48 in his sleep. I just wasn't that swimmer. I was a boxer. I was a boxer mentality. I needed breaks. I needed time. I wasn't going to the Austin Pro Series and in January and popping off a 48. It wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And my coach knew that. I was going to go 50.9 and sit there and beat myself up because I'm like, why am I so slow? Why am I so slow? But then whenever trials came, here comes a 48. I always peaked right at the time that I needed to. And that was one of the things that I know David would always say. He said, I don't have to worry about Cullen. I don't have to worry about Cullen in March. I don't have to worry about him in February or January. As long as he's in some sort of shape, he's going to be in striking range of being where he needs to be at the end of the year. And so I'm not saying that this is for every swimmer. This was me as a pro. You remember me in college.
Yeah. I
would run through a wall. Whoever put something up on the board, I would run through the wall, and I was 24 and I was young. I realized as a pro swimmer, I can't jump up every time and just keep swimming over and over and over again.
Sure.
I need to prioritize when I need to be lights on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I missed a couple of worlds. Yeah, I missed a couple of Pan Packs. But when it came to the Olympic Games, you know, it was lights on. That was it. 2016 hurt so bad because I was so confident in the fact that I was going to, it was lights on. That was it. And I ended up missing by a 10th, less than a 10th. Yeah. And it crushed me because but it was also a learning experience that like, I couldn't just rely on that. I had to rely on my talent, but more so my work ethic. And I think that's why I came back. I went back to NC State in 2017. And although I missed Worlds and Caleb touched me out, I came back and swam the best 100 freestyle that I had swam in 5 years. Yeah. And it was like proof to myself that, I know I can still do this. And in 2018, when I hung it up, it was one of those things where I hung it up because I wanted to. Yeah. Did I have shoulder injuries? No. Was I healthy as an ox? But in 2018, I didn't have the drive anymore. And I always said in the beginning was like, if I don't have the drive, I'm going to hang it up. Right. That's what happened.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny, you know, the last two episodes on the show here, the last two interviews I've done to start out the year. Firstly, we talked about reaching your ceiling. And I think for you to do what you did there in 2017 and just say, hey, I'm gonna show that I can still get to the levels that I can get to. If it doesn't result in a qualifying performance that gets me to where I want to go, I can still hit the performance I know I'm capable of doing. So you were able to get to that ceiling one last time in 2017. But in addition, the last episode that we released was talking about the blueprint of how you are successful and the importance sometimes of actually pinpointing the areas within that blueprint that are suited to you. And I think that's what you're talking about here in terms of knowing yourself and actually allowing yourself to peak at the right time. Because every swimmer's blueprint, it looks the same at the surface of like August, we train our butts off. And in October, we just resent the pool. And by December, we want to quit. But then by January, we've got some meets coming up. So we get excited again. Everyone's got the same blueprint. But you're saying that you were able to, with experience, say, listen, you guys have August to February. You take that. That's yours. I don't mind if you're the best during that time. But come April, come May, come June, certainly by July, you know, you will see the best of me. And I think that is, again, just such a great piece of information for anybody listening that is a part of something that is seasonal. And I think a lot of things that we do in life are seasonal. I don't think we can peak perform each and every day when we wake up, you know. But I think in your case, it's such a fantastic example of those two things. And let's talk about the big one, 2008. You know, I was actually in the UK at the time, believe it or not. I watched this. I don't think I've ever told you this, but I watched this swim at like 3:30 in the morning in England. And I obviously didn't go back to sleep because it was just like, wow, it was just crazy. But again, let's just kind of call it what it is. You know, the other three guys on the relay at the time were household names in the sport of swimming, and you were getting there. You were getting there. You weren't maybe Jason Lezak. You weren't necessarily. You certainly weren't Michael Phelps. No one is Michael Phelps, right? But in terms of being a part of that relay, you earned your opportunity. You earned that opportunity going into that final. And for anybody who is listening that isn't a swimming fan, literally just type into YouTube right now, best relay ever 2008, whatever. You know, it'll come up. Talk to us a little bit about what it meant to be in that final, knowing that you'd earn that opportunity, but then at the same time, how in God's name did you sort of keep your shit together when it came to swimming that race?
That is the perfect part. How'd you keep your shit together?
Right.
So I give this talk quite a bit because I've got to go back though. I've got to go back to when we were at state. 2006, my senior year, I won the 50 freestyle, came home super excited. The next week I went to World Short Course in Shanghai, China, got second, was very upset. The next weekend was Ultra Swim in Charlotte, North Carolina. So now I've got 3 meets like back to back to back to back. I'm exhausted. And I remember racing the 100 freestyle, and it was the last event on a Sunday. For some reason, Ultra Swim, the 100 free was always the last event on a Sunday. Everyone wants to leave, but I'm racing against Phelps, and I'm racing against Lochte and Grievers, and I'm exhausted, don't want to do it. And I swim this 100, and I go out in the first 50, and it's like, before I started swimming, I looked over at Michael, and Michael had this face like, I got this.
Right.
Scrappy. Yeah. I'm like, bro, how do you already know you
touch the nerve there, man?
Okay, you're gonna be all right, good. Mark, go, boom. I lose it. I go out like it's a 50, flip ahead of him. My feet are on the wall. I come out, and you see, Michael.
Yep.
Pops up ahead of me, and I'm like, no, I'm coming after you. I hit the wall. He touches me out. He goes a 48.8. I think I won a 48.9. And I get second. He looks at me and he says, finally, we have our fourth for the 4x100 relay.
Wow.
And it, like, at that moment, I was so hype. Fast forward to 2008, we go to the Olympics, but again, third does not put you on the relay when you've got Michael Phelps on there.
Sure.
So there's one space left. So we had to swim prelims and finals. Everything was backwards. So prelims were at night and finals were in the morning. So that night, I had to swim with Ben Wildman Tobriner, Nathan Adrian, Matt Grievers, and myself. Nathan was first, Ben, myself, then Grievers. I hit the wall, and I mean, Ed Reese he's one of those guys that doesn't want to get in the mess. He goes, the fastest guys get on the relay. Now, Michael, of course, is one of the fastest, so he's already on there. Garrett got first in the 100 free, he's on there. Jason got second, he's on there. So there's only one spot. Whoever's the fastest on the prelims makes it. I win by 1/100th of a second. I beat Grievers by 1/100th of a second. Meanwhile, we also set the world record in prelim. Right. So now I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. And that night, sorry, I'm taking over your show. That night, I sit there and I'm in my room. It's 1 o'clock, banging on the door. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I look and it's Phelps. I'm like, Mike, man, what's up? He's like, Cullen. All the NBA guys are downstairs. They want to wish us good luck. What? So run downstairs. All the whole team's there. Men and women are down there. Kobe, LeBron, D-Wade, Kobe, rest in peace. Everyone's there and they're shaking hands. And like, they knew that this was the relay that Michael might not get his 8 gold medals, and LeBron knew Michael. And so this was my first time meeting any of these guys. And I'm a big, huge, you know me, I'm a huge basketball fan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm shaking hands like, oh my God. And it gets real quiet. They're all staring at me. And I love telling the story because LeBron's the only one that breaks the silence. And he looks at me, he goes, oh shit, there's a black dude on the swim team. And everyone busts out laughing. And so this is the night before this relay. So like Steve said, everyone go check it out. But like, it was only second to the Super Bowl in views on YouTube that year.
Oh, yeah.
But like, that was the night before at 1:30 in the morning. I'm supposed to be ready to focus on this race. And I'm hanging out with all these guys.
Yeah.
And The next morning, everything was clockwork. The president was there. The NBA guys came. I was shitting my pants, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm behind the block, like, oh my God, I can't mess this up. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. I went a 47-6.
Yeah.
In all cases, that's pretty fast, and that's not messing up. And Fred was able to catch me.
Right.
Because he drafted me and caught me.
Yep.
And I thought I'd lost it for the whole team. With a 47-6, which to this day is a fast time.
Yes.
But like I'm sitting here, I think I miss it. And I get on the side, watch the video, right?
Oh, yeah. I see.
Right down here on your screen, you'll see me jump up at the end because I was watching Jason come in and he touches first.
Yeah. And you're the best view in the house, man.
Yeah, man. But I missed all the pictures for all the marketing because it's all
you were exhausted. You were exhausted on the side, man. Yeah. You had like 46.1 seconds or whatever the heck it was that he did to get back over to the lane, which is insane.
Yeah, we'll call him Superman. 46.
Oh, yeah.
46.
Oh, yeah.
Insane.
I mean, and again, like, you know, I actually believe I was the first person on planet Earth to notice you in the bottom corner. By the way, I every time I tell people to watch that video, go just check out Cullen at the end. He's just hanging out in the corner, like.
Bro, I fell back in the pool.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Qualified the whole team. I almost fell back in the pool.
I mean, and it's just one of those. For any fan of sport, Olympic Games, etc., it's just one of those moments in this performance from all four guys, and I think that's the one. It's so easy to just identify the Lezak swim and just say the Lezak swim, but I say it to my athletes to this day, like those results happen because of the situation he was handed. He was given that slither of opportunity. He was given that slither of opportunity, and I'm sure he himself. I don't know Jason, but I'm sure he himself would admit the same thing. You know,
nah, that was all him. You gotta.
No, but it's honestly though, because when you just watch the swim again, you mentioned your time, you mentioned all these other times, and I knew this episode would just become about swimming, which I tried to avoid, but it didn't happen. You know, the fact of the matter is that that performance is an iconic moment in Olympic history, and it is because of just so many incredible emotions that all came into this one performance from the four of you guys. And of course it all gets linked to Phelps's 8 medals and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't know the basketball story. That's hilarious. That's awesome. And I'm obviously insanely jealous of that opportunity to meet all those guys too. But let's just start to move towards the present day, man, a little bit. And I do want to acknowledge just the work that you are doing right now in relation to the racial injustices within the country and within, the sport of swimming. And I think, and this is me being able to speak as someone who's tried to educate himself over these last few months of everything going on in the world, in the country. I went into probably 2020, 12 months ago, saying, what are you talking about? What in the sport of swimming? Like, what are you talking about? And that was naive of me. That was wrong of me to think that way. And that's maybe just who I am as a person. Maybe that I'm a result of this scenario, of this situation, of this world that we're living in. But just talk to me a little bit, man, about and the listeners about just the work you've been doing, but also the reasons for it. And that's the key thing here that I want people to hear.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I appreciate you coming back to this because you didn't even tell me what we were going to talk about today. So I'm just freestyling, everybody.
We're just having a chat. That's all we're doing. We're just having a chat.
I like it. Absolutely. And so it's when George Floyd happened, it goes back to for me, Ahmaud Arbery. Mm-hmm. Here is a young black man running down the street, just getting a workout in, and was shot and killed. Mm-hmm. And it affected me so much that, I felt like I was putting on a couple of the COVID-15 right in here. So I started riding my bike, and that shit stopped me from riding my bike. Mm-hmm. Like I stopped riding my bike around the neighborhood because I live in a neighborhood that's a nice neighborhood. It's now, I grew up in the hood. Now I have the money not to, and I live in the suburbs now. Mm-hmm. But here's this kid just taking a run and people came up on them and shot them. It was something that really got to me. Not that that's personally happened to me. I've had dealings with the police. I've been pulled over. I've been harassed. Your car's too nice. This can't be your car. That's all of that has happened to me. But here's a kid that's just running down the street. Now, 2 months later, here's a man for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, lynched in front of people, killed in front of people. And I hear people sit back and go, well, he must have had some kind of background. How do you justify this?
Right.
In any way? The man is on the floor in handcuffs and you got your knee on his neck. For what? Was he going to run? You got 2 other cops on his back. He's telling you he can't breathe, but you're still on his neck. That next night, after I came out of my place, it was 10 o'clock. I was working late, walking my French bulldog, and a cop car drove by, whipped around, and came back. I heard boop, boop, and came around. This cop, now I know this cop lives in the neighborhood. Comes up, pulls up ahead of me, and he goes, hey, what kind of dog is that? I was like, French bulldog. He's like, oh, he's a puppy, right? I was like, no, this is how big they are. French bulldogs are $3K. I'm not trying to stunt. I'm not trying to flex. I'm just saying that that's how much these dogs are.
Right.
So here I am. I have a nice car next to me. I haven't gotten out of my driveway. See, I have not walked out of my driveway yet. I'm with my dog. And he's like, well, I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Sure, officer, everything's fine. He drove down, whipped his car around to come back to talk to me. Then he's like, well, I was like, oh, do you have a dog? He's like, oh, yeah, I have this dog and this dog. And I was like, oh, yeah, that dog's small. That dog's big. Oh, that's really cool. He's like, yeah, they always getting into this. And oh, thank God for my extensive knowledge of dogs. Because this man's like, oh, I just wanted to make sure everything was all right, and drove off. Now, for most people, and I'm talking about people that that I'll be honest, have not been accosted by the police as much as I have. They're like, well, maybe he was just after George Floyd trying to show you that not all cops are bad. And I said, oh, okay. But why did you whip around at 10 o'clock at night? Because something was out of place. It wasn't the $3,000 dog. It wasn't the nice car in the house. It was my 6'5" black frame, muscular black frame. That did not fit right with you. So you had to drive back and question me about the dog, about it, me being, is this your house? Like, you're asking me these questions because I don't fit your perception of who should live in this house. And here's my problem, Steve. Let's say I was having a party, I was having a good time with my friends, and I had a couple of drinks, and I got irritated.
Right.
I am now diffusing the man with the gun. I am linguistically diffusing this man. And what hit me the most was that I have to teach my son to do the same thing when he's the one with the gun. He's the one that's supposed to protect and serve me. And so after that, and after much talking to a bunch of my friends, I talked to Leah and I said, we need to get people together. We need to get swimmers together. I need to fix something that I know I can help. And the thing for me was swimming. So we got all of the Black swimmers together. We started a coalition called Team Black, and we started working with USA Swimming. USA Swimming put out a post that was very focused on All Lives Matter. And the best analogy that I have heard is the fire analogy. You can have 10 houses on a street, and the fire department cares about every house that's on that street, but it's the one that's on fire that the fire department is going to pay the most attention to. It's nice to say all these houses matter. It's nice to say all lives matter, but the house that's on fire, in Black community. And so when I said that to USA Swimming and our amazing leadership now at USA Swimming, they listened, they took it, and they came back with a much more heartfelt response. And I think that we all felt so much better about that, to know that our national governing body, the group that we work our butts off to represent in this country, they stood behind their Black swimmers. And since then, we've been working with them like constantly, and it's been amazing. To have that kind of relationship with the national governing body it's showing that inclusiveness that we want to see in our sport. And so I'm seeing so many people, David Curtis, you see Giles, you see Simone, Leah, and they're activists in their own way. They're changing the sport in their own way. Now, I had Maritza Correa, who had Sabir Muhammad, who had Byron Davis and Trevor Freeland, and all of these other people that were behind us. To see this explosion that's happening after me is just absolutely amazing, because it's not just one. You've got Leah, you've got Simone, you've got Reese, you've got David, you've got Shane, you've got all of these different swimmers that are now coming up that need to make this sport more inclusive. And to say that like we are actually making a difference. George Floyd was my tipping point. For my entire career, my Instagram, my social has always been neutral. I've not said anything about my political views, nothing. But the first time that I said something was after George Floyd, because that hit me so hard. And that the next day, for me to be profiled in front of my house, something had to change.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I reached out to you right after all this stuff happened, and I just apologized, and you immediately shut me down. Just sort of said, "Dude, don't do that. You don't need to apologize." And I appreciate that, but I think what I was apologizing for, it was almost like you were my outlet. You were my person that I know I could go to that could at least hear me. In the sense that you were a black man within the sport of swimming. And I think this is the naive part on my side of things, especially having been in the U.S. as long as I have now, is that at the end of the day, swimming, just like the sport of baseball with Jackie Robinson, just like all these other big sports that had their firsts, that had their next generation of black people, and that are where they are today because of those people. Swimming is going through that as we speak. It is happening right now. And I think that is the part that I know, obviously, just hearing you talk makes you so proud. That should make so many people that came before you so proud. And at the same time shows how much things still need to change, how much we still need to be conscious of this, how much we still need to actively work on this. And for me, I love that we are where we are in the sport right now. I love that there's people like you that are pioneering this opportunity for others to see all this change. And I wrote something down while you were just talking there, just about being a competitive citizen.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're being now. You're not an athlete anymore in the sense of performance, but you are being competitive as a citizen within your work. And, that you are talking about something where you're targeted within even your most local of communities at home. In that moment, like you said, you stood your ground, you did the right thing, and it sucks that you were put in a situation like that. But in terms of your role as a citizen, in terms of our role as citizens within this country, I think it's so important for us to keep competing for one another.
Yeah.
And competing for opportunity for one another. And I think hearing you talk, that's what you're doing. You are a competitive citizen on behalf of black people within the sport of swimming, on behalf of black people everywhere. And I'll tell you, like, we've had as friends, we've had times when we've been around each other. We've literally lived in the same house, and we've had times where we've had years where we've not really communicated. And it's just awesome. It's awesome to see this, man. It's awesome to see you in this role doing all these amazing things. So I'm just really pleased and proud for you, dude.
I appreciate that, Steve. And you're right. We lived in the same house. We watched soccer together.
I taught you some stuff.
You did. Yeah, I still watch. It's still one of my favorite pastimes. I mean, I really appreciate that. A competitive citizen. I've never thought of it that way, and I will hold on to that. I like that a lot. I mean, I just think that it lit a fire in me. I've read books where people said that there was a turning point in their life. And, I'm always like, yeah, there were things that happened. There were turning points in the sense of like, I felt like I needed to buckle down in swimming. But I think for a lot of swimmers, we're just used to that. Like, someone beat us. Now we got to get back. We got to win, Yep. Where's the line between like just wanting to get back and vengeance and when is it like a true turning point? And so I can probably list a couple of them that happened in swimming, but that moment will live with me for the rest of my life. I remember going in the house and the first thing I thought about was my son. Like, what if I was not belligerent, but angry at something completely different, or didn't answer the way that I was supposed to? And those types of things fuel me when it comes to being in meetings and trying to figure out ways to help in any way. So I like that competitive citizen.
Well, you know, I have the odd good idea here and there, despite what my wife says. You know,
I feel you on that.
Listen, man, if there was any reason or excuse for bringing you on the show, it was just to catch up with an old friend, and I've really enjoyed being able to do this. I love some of the content. I love all the work you're doing. You know, you've always had a fan in me, and I think, in terms of just the future now, I'm excited to see what 2021 holds for you and the work that you're doing. Before I let you go, tell anybody and everybody that's listening that isn't a follower already of Cullen Jones where they can find out more of you.
Yeah, I'm on all social platforms. It's just at Cullen Jones. I got to work with TikTok, man. Someone else name. I can't have this. I need my handle.
That's one too far for me. That's one too far for me.
Come on, man. You got swimmers. You better get on TikTok too.
I know. The whole like being young, feeling old, that sort of thing, it is what it is. But listen, man, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. All the best to you, brother. All right.
Thanks for having me. And I'll be back.
Hold you to that. And my thanks again to Cullen for stopping by the show and speaking with us on this episode. And it's just... it's about time. It's about time that guys like Cullen are doing what they're doing within these sports such as swimming and just within society in general, which is why I provided that perspective of a competitive citizen. And I believe that's what he is. And I believe if there's anything you can take from this particular episode, I think that's a real source of inspiration that we can all take and think about how can we compete for one another on behalf of our communities in a way where we're representing ourselves, but obviously representing each and every citizen that's around within these United States and obviously around the world, wherever you're listening. And I think if we can take a page out of that book of Cullen's of putting others first and giving opportunity to others, then we're competing. And I believe that is what this show does as well as anything, is gives you that blueprint, that idea, those resources necessary to be competitive in any walk of life. So if this is helping you with your career in terms of some of Cullen's approaches as an athlete, then fantastic. But in terms of your approach to life as a whole, I hope that some of his messages in the work that he's doing today, some of the awesome takeaways that we were able to bring to the surface here, those are the things I hope that you take from this episode. And I look forward to being able to bring more of this content to you here in the weeks ahead as we speak with more and more Olympic hopefuls and past Olympians and people tied to Olympians. So many different avenues that we're actually going to take with this Olympic theme that we have coming up over the next few episodes. So I look forward to providing that to you. Be sure to connect with us through Instagram, maybe. Career_competitor is our handle. You can always share the show through there, and I'm always excited to hear from people through Instagram if you want to do that. And obviously, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Steve Mell is my name, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from some of you at some point here in the future. But in the meantime, best of luck with everything and anything you've got going on within your world at the moment, and I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Bye for now.